en route from Greensboro, North Carolina, to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. The aircraft was making its approach into the Raleigh-Durham International Airport when it went down. I am told the accident site is approximately 4 to 4.5 miles southwest of the airport. Our preliminary passenger list does indicate that the aircraft was carrying 18 passengers and a crew of 2 pilots. I cannot confirm the numbers that the Associated Press was reporting about numbers of survivors, but it is correct that some passengers have survived the accident. Beyond that, I have no other details about passengers and the crew at this time.
I know you're not near the immediate scene, and it may be too early for this, but I'm wondering if you're getting any information at all, preliminary information on a possible cause or whether it was weather-related.
None whatsoever, and it really, at this very, very early stage, we just don't think it's appropriate to do any kind of speculation. We have to focus on the accident site and taking care of survivors and family members of the passengers, and that has to be our focus. We just simply can't speculate at this stage.
Clearly, we understand that. If you could, Mr. Smith, tell us a little bit about this particular plane. This has been a difficult time for American Eagle, and there is a lot of trust lacking, perhaps, shall we say, among the American public right now, and this was not, we should point out, an ATR aircraft.
That's correct. This is a Jetstream Super 31 built by British Aerospace. It is a 19-seat twin-engine turboprop aircraft. We have 54 of this type aircraft in the American Eagle fleet nationwide. It's been an excellent aircraft, one that we have operated all over the country for many years. The fleet is young. Average age of our Jetstream Super 31 fleet is just a little bit over 3 years. It's been an excellent aircraft, and we have had good customer acceptance with it.
And no history of any sort of problems.
That's correct. It's been trouble-free.
And this aircraft has pilot competence as well?
As far as I know, yes. I think that's absolutely accurate to say that. We have, it makes up a large percentage of our fleet. In terms, it's probably numerically the second most common type of aircraft among the fleet, unless you combine the ATR aircraft. But it's one that we have a lot of pilots on, and one that the crews have expressed confidence in.
How do you deal with the public relations ramifications of this?
Well, it's something that we'll have to focus on, certainly, but at this point we want to remain focused on handling the immediate situation and to focus on the passengers and the families of those involved. Certainly, in the days ahead, we'll worry about the other side of that you're talking about.
All right. Tim Smith with American Eagle. Thanks very much for joining us this evening. And Prime News will return.
Confirm some of the details of the accident. That's about the extent of what I can tell you right now. We had American Eagle Flight 3379 from Greensboro, North Carolina to Raleigh-Durham International on final approach when it disappeared from the radar screen at about 6:38 p.m. in a heavily wooded area about 4 miles southwest of the airport.
And what is your word on fatalities or survivors at this time?
I know that we have some survivors who have been transported to area hospitals. I don't have an exact number at this point.
We understand that the weather at RDU tonight was prohibitive. It was foggy and rainy. Can you tell us more about that? We don't know whether or not the crash was weather-related, but it is a factor worth examining.
Well, absolutely. Any speculation on the cause of the crash would be very premature at this point. When I drove into the airport this evening, we had a light rain. It was not foggy here. It was light rain, mid-30s.
And we understand that the plane went down in a wooded area in Morrisville.
Near the towns of Morrisville and Cary, North Carolina.
Has that posed any rescue problems at this time?
Not to my knowledge.
And how many rescue crews are involved?
Well, we have Airport Authority, emergency responders, plus Cary, Morrisville, surrounding communities, Wake County, a number of other agencies as well.
Is there fire involved at all with this crash?
No fire.
Okay. Dan Bruno, PR at Raleigh-Durham Airport, thanks much. And CNN will continue to cover this story. Please make a note of the channel that you're watching, and we'll bring you further details as they come in. That is Prime News for this evening. Thanks for...
Heavily wooded area.
For the second time in 6 weeks, the crash of an American Eagle commuter plane. But this time, there are survivors. It's a few miles from the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina airport. For survivors of an American Eagle commuter plane crash in North Carolina. Flight 3379 went down about 3.5 hours ago on approach to landing in Raleigh-Durham. The flight originated in Greensboro. The airline says 20 people were on board, and police officials tell the Associated Press that 10 people were killed. Area hospitals originally reported 7 survivors, but 2 of them have since died. The weather at the time of the crash was cold, rainy, and foggy. But officials say it is too early to tell if that was a factor. An airport spokeswoman says the plane broke apart on impact.
It's described to be in 2 distinct parts. Each of the 2 parts approximately 25 feet from each other, scattered in a wooded, heavily wooded area in roughly a 500-foot area. Any fire? We don't have any reports on fire. No indication on impact as to what caused the impact or what happened on impact. No description.
Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board are on their way to the crash site to examine the wreckage and try to retrieve the flight data recorders. The plane involved in this crash was a British-made Jetstream turboprop, not one of the ATRs, recently in the news after the FAA banned them from flying in icy weather. An American Eagle ATR crash just 6 weeks ago in Roselawn, Indiana. Tonight's crash was the 4th, though, for the airline since 1988. American Eagle has a toll-free number for those needing more information. That number is 1-800-433-7300. And joining us on the phone now is Dan Bruno of the Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority. And Dan, can you give us the latest now on the rescue operation?
Well, it sounds to me like you may already have the latest. Of course, you know, we still have rescue workers on the scene. We have responders from the airport, the surrounding counties and municipalities, as well as North Carolina Highway Patrol.
And are our figures on the fatalities and survivors, are they accurate at this time?
I am not in a position to confirm that, but we do have the confirmation of several survivors. We don't have an exact number because rescuers are still on the scene and are continuing to search.
I think I had asked you earlier this evening if there are any problems getting to the crash site. There are some reports coming to us that the area is rather rugged and wooded. Is that posing any problem?
Well, it is a heavily wooded area. It hasn't posed any great problems for the emergency crews, but it definitely is a heavily wooded area, and it's located about 4 miles southwest of the airport.
There are no reports that we know of, and we spoke earlier with the FAA and American Eagle folks who say that this aircraft has been trouble-free up until tonight, but that isn't necessarily the case. There was one incidence of an icing problem in Hibbing, Indiana, as we understand it, with this Jetstream aircraft. Have you had any problems at the Raleigh-Durham Airport with Jetstream aircraft?
No, absolutely none.
All right. Well, we thank you, Dan Bruno, for joining us
You're
once
quite
again
welcome.
this evening. And we'll keep you updated on this story throughout the evening.
February 1988, an AV air commuter plane flying for American Eagle crashed after departing from the Raleigh-Durham Airport in dense fog, killing all 12 people on board.
And in another crash in Puerto Rico, the pilot and co-pilot of an American Eagle commuter plane were killed in a May 1987 accident. And just 1 week ago today, an American Eagle ATR-42 had to make an emergency landing at O'Hare Airport here in Chicago because of a de-icing problem.
So the bottom line on tonight's crash of American Eagle Flight 3379, the Jetstream Super 31 plane was carrying 19 passengers and 2 crew members from Greensboro, North Carolina. It crashed on approach to Raleigh-Durham International Airport at about 6 o'clock tonight, Chicago time. The Highway Patrol is reporting 10 people were killed. An airport spokesman says he has an unconfirmed report that 5 people have survived. We are
Plane Flight 3379 went down a few miles from the airport in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, as it came in for a landing. The flight had originated in Greensboro. American Eagle says 20 people were on board. At least 7 people did survive the crash, but hospitals say 2 of them have since died.
There are survivors and there are fatalities. However, at this time, the search and rescue operation is still going on, so we do not have any final information on that. Area hospitals are being used to transport the survivors.
Yeah.
The priority has been and will continue to be for some time to secure the area. The first priority is always to attend to the survivors and searching for the passengers and transporting them to the hospital. The NTSB is en route, as well as a variety of other rescue units on the scene, Red Cross and others.
The plane involved in the crash was a British-made Jetstream turboprop. It had a clean safety record. Officials say they don't know yet whether rain and fog in the area contributed to the crash. And Dan Bruno from the Raleigh-Durham Airport is back on the phone with us now because, Dan, we've had some reports that 13 people are confirmed dead.
Okay, yes, that has been confirmed with 13 deceased, and we had 7 persons transported to area hospitals.
So are we safe? And 2 of those, we understand, have since died.
I don't have confirmation of that from where I am.
All right, Dan Bruno. Does that mean that everyone has been accounted for before I let you go? Does that mean everyone's been accounted for?
Everyone has been accounted for, and the search of the scene has ended for now.
All right. Dan Bruno at the airport, thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
Let's take a look now at the weather in the Raleigh-Durham Airport, as well as the rest of the country. Here's Karen McGinnis.
Well, Bobby, there's a trough of low pressure that has been parked just off the Carolina coast. As a result, we saw some winds move in from the east, and that brought in the moisture from off the Atlantic. So fog was a problem here, although it wasn't dense. We are not seeing visibilities 1/4 mile or a few hundred feet. It was 3 miles at the surface. There was rain in the area, so conditions were unfavorable, you might say. We're not saying that that is the cause. Naturally, we wouldn't at this point. However, it may be a contributing factor sometime down the road that the weather was not ideal. Into the west, we're watching one storm.
American Eagle Flight 3379 tonight at the Raleigh-Durham Airport. There were 20 people on board, and the latest figures we now have from airport officials is that 15 people are dead. 13 of them were killed in the impact, and 7 were taken to area hospitals, where 2 have since died. All passengers and crew have now been accounted for, and the rescue operation has been suspended. Joining us on the line now is Renee Twombly from the Duke University Medical.
It was aloft, but not down at ground level, and there was light fog. The plane asked to be cleared to land. It was cleared to land. The pilots acknowledged that instruction from controllers, and that was the last controllers heard from it. It dropped off the radar. Here's what the scene looked like last night. Cameras were not allowed beyond police lines, but authorities said the plane had broken in 2, with wreckage scattered over a 500-foot area. Rescuers had to use 4-wheel drive vehicles to reach survivors and rush them to 2 area hospitals. A resident nearby said when the plane hit, it sounded like a shotgun going off out his back door. The flight was a short one from Greensboro to Raleigh, just 70 miles. It had already been cleared to land at the Raleigh-Durham Airport when it crashed. The plane was a small British-made Jetstream 31 and was relatively new, not quite 4 years old. This was American Eagle's 2nd crash in a month and a half and 5th in 7 years. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board arrived overnight. Already the plane's flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder have been recovered. So an early line on things to look for in this crash, certainly visibility and how the crew handled that, and then the possibility of mechanical problem at the last moment, some problem with the engines or a surface on the wing. Investigators will be anxious to find out what happened here because the plane involved, the Jetstream 31, is a very popular model, about 200 of them in service nationwide for commuter airlines. Brian?
Bob, I know the site is somewhat inaccessible there, and the investigators want to preserve it as much as possible. Have all the victims been removed?
No, not all the dead. So that work will take priority as first light comes.
All right. Bob Hager, thanks very much, Bob. Last night's crash came at a time when America's confidence in commuter airlines was already way down, and it came just 6 weeks after the crash of another American Eagle plane in Indiana. That one left 68 people dead. NBC's Jim Cummins is standing by this morning at American Eagle's headquarters in Fort Worth, Texas. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. As you say, this second crash of an American Eagle flight in less than 2 months has stunned the people who run its parent company, American Airlines.
Entire AMR organization.
Company spokesman Al Becker met with reporters late last night.
Safety is and always has been our first priority.
Becker was on the defensive because his company was recently forced to ground all of its 41 ATR commuter planes because of safety questions in icy weather. That followed the crash of an American Eagle ATR October 31st in northern Indiana that killed 68 people. This was the kind of plane that crashed Tuesday night, a British-built Jetstream Super 31 twin-engine turboprop. American Eagle flies 60 of them. A spokesman for the airline said they are all relatively new, an average age of 3 years old.
We have absolute faith in the aircraft, as we do in all the aircraft we fly.
So did the people who were waiting for American Eagle commuter flights in Dallas last night after the accident in North Carolina.
They're flown on a lot of commuter flights on these smaller planes, and by and large, I think they're very, very safe.
Travel a lot, and I always feel safe, and I don't worry about accidents.
But there is one other disturbing fact, Bryant. In 1993, federal statistics show commuter airlines had twice the rate of accidents as the major airlines.
All right, Jim, thanks very much. We'll be talking about safety of commuter airlines a little bit later this morning. Tim Smith is a spokesman for American Eagle. I spoke with him just a few moments ago in Texas and asked him about what they had learned yet about the cause of the crash.
Unfortunately, no. And of course, as most people realize, the professional investigators from the NTSB will be the lead investigators. We will, of course, aggressively cooperate with them and do anything we can on our own to find out what caused this. But at this point, we just simply can't speculate. We have no idea.
Have all of the families of those on board been notified?
We are in the process of completing that right now as we speak.
2 Eagle crashes in 2 months, Mr. Smith. Do you chalk that up to just tragic bad luck?
Well, there's never such thing as bad luck. Certainly it is tragic, and certainly we are going to aggressively do anything we can to find out what caused it. Safety to us is paramount to everything we do. We have a superb safety record beyond these 2 incidents. There is nothing that we know of that relates these 2 incidents in any way, and of course we'll be aggressively looking at everything we do.
Safe to say your airline will be reevaluating its safety procedures?
Well, certainly our procedures, but you have to remember our procedures and our people are very, very professional. We operate and train at the higher Part 121 standard used by major carriers like American or United or Delta, but certainly no stone will be left unturned.
The Jetstream aircraft, as I think you know, has a checkered history. It's been involved in 4 deadly crashes, this being the 5th now, in the last 5 years. Eagle has, as I understand it, 54 such planes. Do you still have faith in the safety of the aircraft itself?
Absolutely, and let me tell you why. Our Jetstreams are the Jetstream 3200, what is commonly called the Super 31. The other accidents involve the Jetstream 31, and this newer, updated version, the 3200, is as different from a Boeing 727 as a Boeing 757. It's a different model made by the same manufacturer, and there have been no accidents involving the 3200. We remain very optimistic about this airplane.
Yesterday, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, yesterday that plane flew from Jacksonville to Raleigh-Durham, then to Fayetteville, Arkansas, then back to Raleigh-Durham, then on to Greensboro, and it was heading back to Raleigh-Durham again when it went down. Ordinarily, is a plane on such a run checked out at each stop or simply at the beginning of the day? That's number one. And number two, had the pilot been with that plane throughout its entire day?
First of all, it was Fayetteville, North Carolina, much closer in than Arkansas that you mentioned. No, these pilots were only on the second leg of their day. The aircraft is checked out before every flight, both by maintenance people if there's anything that is written up, and of course the crew does a complete walk-around before every flight. That's standard procedure.
The public's faith, Mr. Smith, final question, in the safety of commuter airlines and American Eagle particularly is understandably low. What do you say to those who now think American Eagle's unsafe?
Well, first of all, our airline has been in operation for 10 years. It's wholly owned by AMR Corporation, the parent company of American Airlines. We operate our airline at the higher standard. We'll continue to do everything in that same vein. These 2 accidents, so far as we know, are in no way related, and that our safety record beyond these 2 accidents is excellent, and we'll continue to do everything we can to make it even better.
All right. Tim Smith, I thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We've still much more ahead on the crash of 3379. You have some special guests in a couple of moments.
I'll be
right?
talking to an eyewitness. The crash occurred just minutes from her home.
Okay. And there's other news as well this morning. For that, we go to Sarah James, who's in from Mad Laura. Sarah, good morning.